Hey there, welcome back to SureFire Live. Thank you for joining me tonight. Tonight we have a special guest, longtime friend of mine, Jasper Drengler. Very interesting guy, I've known for a while, seen him grow up a lot in this business, and I think you're really going to enjoy his story, and I think you're really going to enjoy his heart for people and for this business. So I'm excited to talk to him. A couple things. Thank you for all of you that attended the MACA Business Symposium. It was a great success. We had a really nice group of people on Zoom that came in, and then we also had a really great audience. Had very good speakers, and the audience, a lot of participation, even on Zoom. Also, their auction, a lot of vendors gave a lot to that industry group. And people, I think they raised the most money they'd ever raised. So really a great overall event. Congratulations to MACA for putting that on, especially Jim Bostaff and Chuck Hall. Those guys really did a great job at the whole. And also Brian Whitaker, if you're watching, he was my buddy the whole time, and we made a lot of fun. And thank God for Brian Whitaker for making that thing happen. So a very successful event. Also, just coming up, for those of you that want, the next business symposium will be at my shop in Nashville at Ashbusters. We're going to have it on June 9th and 10th. We're going to have some similar speakers, but some new speakers, and it kind of rotates around. And that'll be June 9th and 10th. Some details to come. So we will let you know more on that. Lastly, the dates have been announced for the Sweep Away Cancer Rally. And that is going to be on May 20th and 21st. That'll be in the Smoky Mountains. This will probably be the last year we do it at the same place. We're going to do it for many more years, but we've been to the same place for a couple of years. A lot of people really like it. It's a beautiful ride, but I think it's about our 4th year there. So we're going to move to a new location, and we'll give you more dates and links to come to that or support it as you can. So with that, I don't know if you've been watching. I'm sure you have. Everybody's been watching this Ukraine thing, and I'm just fascinated by it. And I know there's a State of the Union thing tonight, and who knows what's going to happen with that. But your heart goes out to the people of Ukraine, and I just, I'm cheering for them, and I want to support them. And then there's all this politics in the way, and we know we could go in there and just help this thing, and with the power of our military, and you see all those trucks lining up, you're like, man, an A-10 Warthog would just take care of that problem and save these people. And maybe that's just me. Maybe I don't understand everything, but man, my heart is, I'll be watching this stuff and my heart just goes out to these people, man. I love seeing them fight. Well, I hate that they're fighting, but I feel so energized by what they're doing. And it was just, it's terrible. And I just wish we could do more. So not with that, but speaking of big hearts, I'm going to bring on a guy, Jasper, right now. So here he comes. Hey, Jasper.
Hey, Mark. How you doing tonight?
I'm great, man. Thank you for joining me. I know you're busy. You're down in Atlanta at HPPA. I'm going to see you there tomorrow. I thought I was going to be there tonight. We're going to do this side by side, but I had some things come up. So what are you doing in Atlanta?
Well, obviously, I got up at midnight to drive down here just so I'd be in time to see you. I could have left later and been arriving later, but that's all right. I'll get to see you tomorrow.
Yeah.
I just now noticed my beard has surpassed you in gray. I used to say I was doing the Mark Stoner, but now I might be pushing almost the Darren Beeboo grayness here.
There's some gray coming in hard all around, man. It's coming.
It's this COVID stress, I guess. But
I feel it. Yeah. Did you have COVID?
I don't think I did. I don't know if I did. I was sick a number of times. I've probably had 20 tests since this all started. I think Alan Rush is the only person I know that actually travels more than me. So I'm so sick of getting my nose swabbed, but I never stopped traveling. My daughter and I have traveled most of the world since COVID started. Flights were cheap. We just enjoyed it.
Yeah, I noticed that. I see your Facebook, and you're really doing great stuff with your kids and your family, and for all around. So, for those that don't know you, just give people an introduction to who you are and what you do.
So my name is Jasper Drengler. I currently run a company called Chimney Mechanics. I originally took the CSI test for the very first time in 1998. And since then, I now have all the masters in the industry, 4 of them total. I was a really dumb chimney sweep for a long time. Technically, I knew what I was doing. It took about 6, 7 years before I would say I actually kind of knew sort of what I was doing. But I knew nothing about running a business. So I made every mistake. Um, you know, 2005 went out on my own. 2010, I had just one employee, and kind of stagnant there for a number of years. And my life kind of changed. Well, I think it was 2013 or 14 at that Puerto Rico event, Lindemann University, where suddenly I realized I need to stop screwing around and actually run a business instead of just letting it control my life. At that time, I was serving as the Wisconsin Guild president. Later ended up serving in Region 5 for NCSG and all the way up to the presidency until they kicked me out after 8 years. But the last couple of years, it's kind of putting all the pieces together that I knew what I should have been doing, all the lessons I learned from others before me, and business has blown up. I now have something over 20 employees. I've got some management tiers. We're just growing at a crazy rate. So we've grown so much in the last year that my warehouse manager kicked all my racing stuff out of the shop, and I had to go find another building.
Dude, I love that. I remember seeing you in Puerto Rico. I remember you being all in and really focused on what everybody was saying. And really, I mean, I didn't know you much before that, but watching you grow, and you're also very open with your mistakes too, as where I think that helps a lot of people relate. And I think it seemed like a while back, if I can remember, I never heard guys really talk about mistakes. It just always seemed to talk about what they knew and what they did. And man, when I was going through it, I'm like, man, I guess I'm the only one screwing this up this bad. And I know, you also are very open and humble. And I remember a few months ago, you did a Facebook post, and it was late at night. You had worked like, I don't know, 36 hours and talked about some bad things that happened. A guy quit. I can't remember the details, but I remember going, that's a tough day he's working through. And just talk about what you did right, and maybe some things you didn't do right or should have done sooner.
So what I should have done sooner, my biggest enemy is myself, right? I can give advice all day long. I could tell you how to start the perfect chimney company and grow it as fast as you want, right?
Yeah.
I very much now face this business and industry as I could lose everything tomorrow and do it a whole lot faster from scratch compared to what I'm doing right now. In 2016, I fired everybody.
Yeah. You did?
Yeah. 2016, everyone got fired. A couple are back now, but I rebuilt it again. And what I did right was start listening to other people's experiences. So I remember Mark chatting with you at the Warrior Horse conference, and I was telling you about my latest tax problem. Oh, and yeah. It was a 6-figure issue. I wrote the last check. That's done. I finally have that cleared up. I hired a new tax attorney, a new tax accountant since then. We're never going to have that problem again. But it all came down to use tax not being right, some DMV issues, and me just being stupid, right? Not keeping track of stuff the way I should. So I've told a couple other people that as soon as you start your business, get the best accountant you can afford and audit them regularly. Don't be afraid to change. That's one of the biggest things in this business. As the company grows, everything has to be upgraded, right? Yeah. So when you start out, the accountants that you have, the attorneys that you have when you're a small business aren't the same people that you need when you're bigger.
So true.
And that's one of the other things, Mark, that I think people look at you or Mr. Hall or other people with big businesses is I always want to remind people that one of the most amazing things about this industry is you can be any size you want. There are a lot of people that are perfectly content being mom and pops. Yep. They don't want to grow. I chose to grow because I wanted my freedom. Much like you'd rather play with guitars and chocolate and go barbecue, I'd rather go play with race cars, right? So
I love that.
In order to do what I really want to do in life, I have to be able to afford it, and I have to have the time. And I'm really blessed at this point in my life to value my time more than anything else. You know, two of my kids are adults now, and I'm blessed to have the relationship with my kids that I didn't necessarily have with my father. Um, my two oldest kids are adults, and they are choosing to still live with me. Like they want to be there. Um, you know, Mark, I read your book more than once, and there's so many similarities. For instance, my son is horrible at chimneys.
Right.
Horrible. The worst.
Yeah.
We couldn't, everyone kept telling me, fire him, fire him, fire him, get rid of him. So now that my son found a job that he likes and a different career path, he's my son again. We don't get home and butt heads about what happened at work all day. And I woke up at midnight to leave. He had just gotten home from his job. I gave him a big old hug. You know, he's my kid again. I love it. And then you'll appreciate this, Mark. So I think you listened to the video where I said my daughter's going to Hawaii for college.
Yeah.
So I keep my political views very close to my chest. Michael Jordan once said he never says who he backs publicly because everyone buys shoes. So he never wants to piss anyone off. So let's just say my daughter's political views are exactly the opposite of mine. And she wants to go get her MBA, run her own business, and the artsy parts of her, like I follow your daughter on Facebook. Oh my God, I think my daughter is your daughter's younger sister at times. The way she looks at the world and sees it. And but my daughter very much knows that she's getting some opportunities that she wouldn't have if dad didn't work his ass off for so many years.
Let's say that real quick. So, I remember a time when I could not do all the cool things for my kids I can do now. And I remember a time when my son and I went skiing, and I couldn't afford much. We went skiing. I was broke. It was me and my son. I think he was like 8 years old. And I didn't really have the money. I remember us like getting snacks and eating on the trash can while we were and then I remember one time specifically going into, I didn't realize it was a nice restaurant. I walked in, we had our bibs and our ski, we looked rough. And you may have heard the story, but and it said Mountain Grill or Mountain, and it looked like, on the top of a ski resort, a regular place. Well, we opened the first set of doors. There's another set of doors with big wooden doors. I'm like, uh-oh. They opened the second set of doors, and there are people there in, white coats. Well, come right down. I said, man, we're in the wrong place. I'm sorry. We got down. They set us down, and we're all sweaty headed, and everybody else is dressed up. And I'm like, we are in the wrong place. We looked at the menu, and I said, Bud, we can't afford anything on this menu. I said, we got to get so we got water and barley soup, and we got out of there. And my kids remember that. I kept saying, this is going to work. This is going to work. And they had faith, but they also weren't seeing a lot of results early on. Did you have, your kids have come a long way with you. Now I see you traveling with them. Talk about that a little bit, seeing your transition through your kids.
So there's two different sides of it. So I've got two adult children, and I've got two younger kids now. Okay. And my older kids don't remember how dirt poor dad was. So a quick comment to that. When I hit rock bottom, I didn't have a house. When you hit rock bottom, at least you had a couch to get mended on. And I really attribute the way our businesses have turned out to the fact that we hit rock bottom. We're not afraid to go back there again, and we will leave there a lot faster because we had nothing to lose, right? Yes. When you've got nothing to lose, you're willing to take out that stupid loan. You're willing to risk everything because why not? What are they going to do? I remember a creditor calling saying it was going to dig my credit, and I laughed. Credit, go for it, bud.
You heard a 400 credit score.
I've had lower than that, man. But no, so my older kids, it dawned on me at one point, they don't remember how poor mom and dad were. And, living, I've been married more than once, and the way that my children's mother lives is not at all the way I live. Our values aren't the same. Amazing mothers. My children's mothers are both amazing mothers. They've made sure that my kids have always been clothed really well, a roof over their heads, physically taken care of. But the way we look at the world just isn't exactly the same. We get along great living in separate houses, right? Amazing co-parents. I'm really blessed in all of that. but the kids didn't remember some of that stuff. So there's times where I'll be riding along somewhere or going on a plane, and I'll tell them a story. And they're like, really? Really, Dad? And and your comment about the ski resort. So I'm not in a truck full time anymore. I'm only in the truck 8 days a week lately because I enjoy it, right?
Yeah.
But I was in Indianapolis last week, and I was hungry and I was dirty. I went through a fire investigation trying to figure out how the fire started, and I'm covered in crap, insulation. I just look disgusting. But I was hungry and I wanted to eat at a certain restaurant. The restaurant closed, or the kitchen closed 15 minutes after I got there, and I was treated a little bit rude and not so nice. And I kind of just smiled and laughed and walked out after not getting served my meal. I just had to slam a drink. So I'm going to go back there a little dressed up next week when I'm back in Indy. And I'm going to try to find that same waitress, and we're going to have a conversation, right? And my employees to this day, we'll have stories, and they'll be like, they'll want to buy a new piece of equipment, and I'll tell them a story like, there was a time we couldn't buy this, guys. Like
I had that conversation today.
Exactly. It's unbelievable what we've done. So a little secret, kind of saw the writing was on the wall with supplies this year, and this spring I maxed out all of my personal credit cards because I don't care about my personal credit rating, and I filled a building with stainless steel and aluminum. And a number of my competitors are aware of this, and I turned into a little bit of a supplier. I made a couple bucks, but by the time I paid off those credit cards, the amount of money I saved on the increase in price was great, a lot less than what I had to pay in the interest. So that was a fabulous year. We almost never ran out of material this year. That was fun.
Yeah.
But it's been a roller coaster. And one thing that I've been very conscious to do the whole time is to always give back, right? Like, you were one of the guys I looked up to, and I think it was mostly because you weren't that much older than me, right? Now you don't look that much older than me now, but you weren't a dinosaur, right? You weren't one of my dad's buddies, and that was always something that I really was irritated with because I started my own company.
Well, let's talk about that for a second. Your dad was in the chimney business. Did you work with him, and then how did you transfer into your own business?
So I took the certification test in 1998. I was still in high school working for my dad part-time. I graduated high school, and chimneys are stupid. I don't want to work on chimneys. I just want to go wrench on cars, right?
Nobody wants to at first.
Yeah, nobody in school wanted to go work on chimneys, right? I wanted to be an auto mechanic. That made more sense. So lo and behold, a couple bad life decisions later, and I've got a baby on the way. And my dad's like, you can make more money working for me. And no, I'm not going to work on chimneys. That's not fun. So what do I do? A couple weeks go by. He's like, come into the office and see what we can pay you. Wow, that's double what I'm making now, and I'm broke. So I went out and I got certified, and I started working for him full time. And back then we had a training wage, and that's how I pay my guys now. You get a training wage until you're certified. And then as soon as your commission is higher than your training wage, you're on commission and you're there for life. It's sink or swim. My very first day in the field in 2001 as a certified technician working for America's Best, I made almost $800. That was a lot of money back then. Still not a bad rate today.
That's a good day.
I'm happy to still make that today. But it was a 14 some hour day. I ended up doing the neighbors of multiple customers. It was just a record setting day across the company. And I walked into the office the next morning, and I probably told my mom's assistant, I'm on commission now. She hated me. To this day, that lady still hates me, even though her son works for me. That's another story. But so I worked for America's Best for a number of years. And then the company got sold. I got fired and rehired a couple times in there because I'm a horrible employee. horrible. I'm unemployable actually. And anybody that's left from the mixed group that my dad was in back then would tell you the same. Never hire Jasper. It's not going to work out good. So
Really?
Bill Hustle in Milwaukee bought the company out, and Bill Hustle was obviously told I was bad news. So that lasted 24 hours. So I said, I'm going to show all of you that I can do this on my own, right? Because I'm smart and cocky and really stupid. It didn't work. I lost everything.
Oh, dang.
I ended up going through my first divorce in that time period. I went to work at a company called Carver Yachts. They make ships, yachts, beautiful boats. And I absolutely loved the work I did there. I learned how to do low voltage and high voltage electrical work. At the time they were hiring me, they actually sold a boat with a fireplace on it. Had nobody to actually do that. So I was a shoo-in for that job.
Nice.
So I put a fireplace in a boat that actually got shipped off to Russia. It might be sunk this week, but I lasted 6 months at Carver Yachts. And while I was there, everyone that works there is close to the same pay rate. You know, no one's getting filthy rich working there. And it's always a pipe dream to own one of these boats one day. And so I lasted 6 months. I got fired. I fought and won them in court for unemployment because I think I was one of the only employees to ever read the employee manual cover to cover. You know, all my experience watching my parents go through struggles like that with employees. The first day that we got hired, we were told to rip the back page out of the employee handbook, sign it, and hand it in. Well, I read it before I signed it. It says, I've read this entire book and will follow everything in it. So I made sure to read the book. The book was basically a step-by-step on how to get fired and how to win in unemployment court. So I won. And when I started Chimney Mechanics all over again, I used my unemployment checks, and I did all the crappiest cash jobs you could think of ever to make it work. I realized I needed to make money, needed to support my family. I needed to not be a loser. And I still had hobbies like cars. I swear, if I could have been smart like you and set the cars aside for years and just worked hard on the business, I would be racing Ferraris instead of BMWs right now. But I didn't. I still dabbled in the cars. And then I just kind of floundered for a number of years until we, got to where we're at now. So a really cool thing was last fall, I paid cash for a Carver yacht. I found one for sale, and I paid cash for it. I'm renting out as an Airbnb, again, copying somebody else in the industry who has Airbnbs. I was trading notes with your daughter on designing it one day, and she wanted to trade some properties. Yeah. But so I bought a Carver yacht. Wow. I spent all last summer, whenever I had free time, maintaining it. It's not one I actually built. So this last fall, I went out to San Diego in November when I was playing with the off-road racing. And there's actually 2 marinas down from where Darren keeps his boat that I built.
Really?
And I chose to buy another building instead of another yacht. So, I made one smart business decision this year. I chose a 38,000 square foot building instead of a 6-bedroom yacht,
So I want to get into that. I saw that. I want to get into that. I've got a couple of things, because guys, remember, it's a two-way conversation. If you got questions for Jasper, I'll ask him or post.
Well, I'm trying to talk fast because you told me, I asked you how long I had, and you said as long as I need, and I said how many hours, and you cut me down to 1. So I'm trying to get through this,
You're great. You're great host, or a great guest. All right. So Cody Whitwood said, "Woot woot, chimney time, baby." He said, I can't wait for the R&R class in Vegas. Are you teaching that?
I am. Yep.
Cool.
I'm going to start putting that together shortly.
Right. A couple of days before, throw the CEUs in. And so then also Chad said, I'm much more gray since COVID. Yeah. So totally. And then Chad Murray says, my 2 oldest daughters think my 3 younger daughters are spoiled rich kids. When we were talking about, and that's a fact,
Yeah, that's so my 2 oldest kids are with my first wife. My 14-year-old son is with my second wife. My fourth daughter, or my second daughter, my fourth child's actually adopted.
Oh,
And there was a little time period there where all I ever heard was that kid gets everything.
yeah.
And it got to me a little bit. But it's all perception, right? And I think I've done a pretty good job of spoiling my daughter lately. That's actually a funny story. So I bought my daughter a little BMW, nothing fancy, just a little X3. And I think I mentioned this on one of the stories online. I had a customer just berating me all day, just a little Barbie doll
Great
princess.
story. I like this.
And she's going on, and I asked her to move a vehicle so I can get dust on it. And she starts kind of bragging up her car in the garage that she has to move. And she just wouldn't shut up. So finally I'm like, well, yeah, I know. I bought one for my daughter. And the look on her face was just priceless, right? It was like,
How often
yeah,
they
lady.
come down to us, you're like, yeah, that's cute.
Yeah, that's cute. I got a nicer one in my garage, and my daughter drives one of those, but whatever.
Yeah, I
Um,
love that. I remember you saying that. That's such a nice, you
well,
know,
and so it's hilarious though, because everyone's got their own priorities and what they like to spend money on. And I've actually hosted a number of chimney sweeps in my house in the last year. And so when COVID first struck, when we started doing those little cutesy videos about, what to do when we're slow because the world's ending and we're gonna have all this time, I gutted my house because I'd had time, right? So that was what, March of 2020. I don't have countertops in my kitchen yet. All brand new cabinets, all brand new appliances. I'm waiting on the countertops. I don't cook. I can't cook, right? I basically live a bachelor life in my house, and my entire house has been remodeled, but I still have missing siding on the back porch, and I don't have countertops. So and I don't care. My house has been paid off for a long time. I'm comfortable in it, but it's funny watching sweeps come over and they're like, "This is where you live?" I'm like, "Yeah, yeah. You want to go see my cars?"
exactly.
So,
When I listen to you and when I've seen stuff, one thing just hits me specifically, and that you have a lack of, I don't mean this in a wrong way, but a lack of fear. Like you're not afraid to push it, whether it be the race cars or business or whatever. You're not afraid. And is is that accurate? And how much does that play in your psyche on willing to get the 38,000 square foot building, willing to put money in race cars, willing to do, like, how do you feel about that?
so I might be a little reckless, but I'm not stupid. So I am overly insured. Like I waste a ton of money on insurance, right? So when Joe Sauter was going through his cancer and he thought he was dying, thank God he didn't. I went skydiving with him, and my phone rang while I was in the hangar, and it's loud as heck at an airport, right? I don't have my own plane yet, but that's on the list. And it was my insurance guy, not just my insurance guy. It's the guy that handles my retirement and some of my whole life, because that was actually a super good investment for tax reasons. Everybody, if you want to do that, great tax shelter.
Yeah.
Don't ever take tax advice from me, by the way. But he's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm about to jump out of a plane." And he goes, "Oh, you're covered." And so I'm like, "Okay, just out of curiosity, what would it take for my policies not to pay off, right? Like, how far can I push this?" And he says, "With your lifestyle and the policies I have for you, the only way your dependents aren't getting paid is if they're the ones pulling the trigger."
Oh, God.
So, I like to scuba dive. I like to jump out of planes, drive fast cars, do all kinds of that stuff. But my willingness to work stupid hours and to gamble on business has absolutely cost me in life, personally, personal relationships. I know not to get too personal, but you've experienced that, and it's everyone. I think not just your business coaches, but at times, unfortunately, even your life partners. There's a time where it's a match, and there's a time where it isn't. If that's the easiest way to say it. And so there were times where my first, second, and third wife would say, just not so much the third, she was spoiled, but the first and second wife would say, "Why don't you just get a job? Why are you doing this?" Like, why don't you just work 40 hours for so-and-so and be done at the end of the day? And there were times I thought about it. There were times I was working 40 hours for somebody else and still doing 40 hours a week for myself, right?
Yeah.
Because that's what I had to do. The biggest problem, I think, in my second marriage was there was a turning point where I didn't have to do it anymore, right? I didn't have to kill myself nonstop. And by the time I realized I didn't have to, it was just habit. That was too late, right? And one thing that I learned from that was when we were in, so I bring it up to you all the time in personal messages when you and I are chatting about that Puerto Rico trip, but really that was a major turning point in my life on so many different levels. That's why I decided at 40 years old, I'm getting out of the truck. I'm done. And I've always thought I was a really good technician and a pretty crappy business owner. So I've had to work harder on the business owner side. But I look at so many people in this industry and it breaks my heart seeing their health, seeing their knees, their shoulders, their elbows, their heart conditions, the cancers that so many of them have that don't talk about it, right? I want to be able to bend over and pick up my grandkids, right? And I could be a grandpa literally any day. I'm not coming right now, but if my kids are anything like me, that could happen any day.
Well,
so that was my motivation. I still love the work I do. Obviously, I'm in the field more than I should. I'm only supposed to be scheduled 2 days a week and take up emergencies, which affords me travel. And I don't like running the business day to day. So I've hired managers. And, I tell you what, the first time you hire someone and you're paying them 6 figures, and then you get all your guys on commission, you get them sales training, and you have 5 guys on your payroll whose weekly checks are bigger than yours. But you know what I got? I got the freedom.
Yeah.
I have the freedom like I've never had before. Yep. I've lived very frugal. Jeremy Biswell, his pancake speech that I got one year totally changed the way that I look at money and investments. And then I started actually working on that and getting an education in it.
Yeah.
And the freedom to not have to worry. Like if you break down what you actually have to bring in a week to live, for me, it's a very, very small number.
That's awesome.
So if I'm seriously hurt, if the business crashes tomorrow, I'll be fine. And we speak about bad days. Monday was a bad day. We had 3 guys out of work, 1 with an injury, 2 sick, had a couple jobs canceled because we couldn't get to them in time. And then I got served papers for a $275,000 lawsuit. So, that happens.
Thank God for insurance.
Yeah, they're coming after me. Luckily, I know that I'll get out of this one again. I'm actually going to put together a hot training for this. I'm going to bring people to the investigation. I know I'm not at fault. I have a source that told me what the cause of the fire was, so it'll be fun.
Yeah.
But I'm going to bring a couple people to experience that because, like Mark, the more you put yourself out there, the more customers you have, the more times you're going to run into problems, right? It's just a scale.
Right. More exposure.
Yeah. If you haven't been served papers before the first time, you won't eat for days.
Yeah.
You'll be sick to your stomach. You'll think the world's over. Your insurance guy's going to be down your throat. And now it's happened a few times. No big deal. I mean, I am undefeated in a courtroom. So I shouldn't brag about that too much, but anyone that's been dumb enough to drag me all the way into a courtroom has walked away with a goose egg.
Yep.
My insurance has never paid out anything ever, not even my auto insurance. Little tip right there.
Nice.
I employ a lot of young guys, and I only have 2 or 3 trucks per insurance policy.
Oh, really? That's interesting.
Yeah. So I personally own all the vehicles, and I'm poor, so that's awesome. And then I put 3 vehicles per insurance policy on different companies. So one of you guys wrecks up a truck really bad and you get sued, not all your rates are going up on all your vehicles. Yeah, look into that.
And dude, that's a hot tip. I love that.
Another quick tip, don't bundle your insurance ever. All your properties, all of them, separate policies.
Why?
Okay, so they want to say, well, bundle and you'll save you some money here,
I'll
save you some money there. Absolutely not. Different agents, different companies. all it takes is one dumbass to slip and fall in your parking lot, and everything's tied together. Right? Make it hard for them to track down who you are, put all your buildings in different company names, rent them all out back to the company. So I rent my trucks, I rent my businesses all to the companies. And then I've got my own corporate shell umbrella policy to protect me from nuclear war.
Right.
By the way, make sure you've got terrorism insurance. That might be a good idea this day and age, like this week.
It's cheap too.
It is. It's like $9 on one of my buildings. Yeah. Like, why wouldn't you? Why'd you turn that down?
Right.
So
that's so interesting. I've always heard, you want to own nothing but control everything is a wealth strategy. It sounds like you're going down that road. But a couple of quick comments. There's people said, I love this comment from Chad. He says, Jasper seems to have found joy in his life. No fear in coming from nothing creates a sense of self-worth because of what he said earlier. Who cares about his credit? Sounds familiar. And then another, I don't know why it says Facebook user. If you don't mind telling me who you are, it says, you'll never outwork someone that knows what rock bottom looks like. Dude, that is strong.
Well, I'm almost never the smartest person in the room, but I'm not afraid to outwork anybody. And I'm not the best mason. I'm not the best gas technician. I'm not the best at anything in my company right now. But if we had to put them all together, I can hold my own. And I think that's actually true in the industry, which is why I really love our peer-to-peer learning from each other. I had 60 people show up at my new building for my hands-on gas class with the Wisconsin Guild. And that was the first time I was nervous in front of a class, right? I don't get nervous too often, but I looked out in the room and I'm like, you and you and you and you have more experience than me, and I'm up here. And all of them said that they found a tip during the class. And then I was true to my word and I made them all come up and teach with me because I threatened anyone that shows up with any knowledge is going to be put to work. So we split up in groups. But yeah, I'm never the smartest guy in the room. I'm really good at copying. I'm really good at taking other people's ideas and molding them a little bit. Exactly. But I really have never had any original ideas in my life.
I feel the same way. I've just taken something else that somebody did. And I think the key, the takeaway on this is that you implement. Whether you implement, and I think you also do the thing that I say is act now, perfect later, and just go. There's no way you can fix it first. And so many people want to try to fix it first. And at MACA, there's a guy in the room, and he's like, I'm listening to you guys talk, and about 98% of what you guys talk about, I don't have going. And I said, of course you don't. You're number two, and you can't have it all. And if you had it all, you'd never get launched. And I think you are a great example of get it going, and we'll figure it out as we're moving. Right? I mean, that's how you do it.
I've got a dear friend who is absolutely genius in their field, but they overthink it all. Like their business plan they've been working on for 3 years. They haven't taken up a checking account. They haven't hired an attorney. They haven't done anything. And so my own plain stupidity has almost been a blessing at times because I haven't been scared of anything. I'm not afraid to make a mistake. And just like you said, roll with it. You build it and then you let a system fail. You fix that system, wait for the next one to fail, fix that. And it's just nonstop.
That's what business is. I mean, that's what a growing business looks like.
My whole stockpiling of materials and my 24-hour service that our company does was just copying another. If someone at a convention once told us a story about a guy with a plumber that keeps water heaters on the truck. He wants his trucks to be able to pull in, fix anything in that house, not have to ever run for parts. And, in our industry, that's almost impossible, but it's not. All you have to do is ask the customer to send you a couple quick photos of their fireplace. So for us, we've got a lot of people that heat primarily with wood. So send us a picture of your furnace or your stove or whatever the appliance is. I only have to throw 3 different size liners in the truck, guessing off the photos. Like we have pulled into many houses this fall, shake the fireman's hand, high five him on the way out. One trip, we pull in, we drop the liner, everything's done. We battle with the insurance company later. And I've never once had an insurance company not pay me the full amount, ever. were doing the work before they even know there was a loss.
We do that with gas logs on our gas division. We carry 18 and 24s on the trucks. So you're just ready to do it. But yeah, that's so that was Jeremy Biswell, by the way, the genius Jeremy Biswell, I should state that you'll never have someone that knows rock climb. We're all Jeremy Biswell fans. We got to have Jeremy on here because you never know what he's going to do. Some days he's a serious businessman. Some days he's absolutely bonkers.
You have to have like a 5-second pause button with Jeremy just in case, you know, because Brittany will say, or not Brittany, Brandy will say, no, you can't say that, you know, and try to reel him in the background.
So Rob Jorgensen must be talking about your gas class. He said that was a great class. Sounds like he was up at your gas class.
Yeah, it was supposed to be super basic, right? I tried to make it really clear. This isn't going to prep you to pass any exam or make you an expert. It's just let's get rid of the fear of it, you know? And we started fires, and, you know, the fire marshal wasn't happy after I posted pictures that we had live fire in the building, but whatever.
So let's talk about, so you have a real, a giving heart. So that's clearly what, you know, you start off being, you know, with Wisconsin, and then you became the NCSG president for several years, for 8 years, and longest that I remember. And, you know, you're always trying to figure out how to help the people. And at the same time, your business helps you. And you've figured out this, I don't know if it's a work-life balance. I don't really love that term, but you figured out a balance for you. And I think to me, it was front loaded in work, and now it's becoming front loaded in life. And so, but talk about, you know, why you volunteer, why you give, why you do what you do.
Well, it's really simple. It's selfish. Every time that I've gone and helped someone with a project, or, you know, we've gone and helped, even if it's a customer that couldn't afford the repairs that really needed them, or it's another sweep who needed help on a job site, or it's working at the tech center, I've always learned something, right? Like we put all the building together, the world's worst chimney, and building that building. I learned more about carpentry than I knew before.
Yeah.
And then, but I still was able to teach others their stuff. So the experience is worth it. So at one point, one of the times I got fired from America's Best Chimney, I found a cash job, and it was on a construction site. And I showed up, and I helped the roofer roof the house, and I helped sheet the walls, and I helped do the plumbing, and I helped all those trades. But I was enjoying learning them. I was getting paid to learn more skills. You know, I learned how to sweat pipe. I learned how to wire an entire building. And those skills, as we've evolved to changing out fireplaces, as we have evolved to all the things that we never thought we would do as chimney sweeps 20 years ago, are what's got. I have no fear of cutting open a wall to run a pipe. I have no fear of cutting into a roof. I know I can flash any flashing there is.
That's exactly right. That's what's happened to us.
From time
your dad started to where you are now, very different business.
Yeah, and so every time I help someone out, I learn something. But not only that, even helping your competitors, right? If you're on an island and you're the smartest chimney company in the state and nobody around you knows anything, you have no one to back you up. So if everyone else comes in and says, nope, that guy's a crook, he's trying to sell you stuff you don't need, you look stupid. You know, you're on an island. But if you've got competitors around you that know what they're doing and do the same type of quality work you do, they'll have your back. They'll come in as the second opinion, and yeah, price might be a little different. They might hire someone else, but they're not going to run you into the ground as being a crook and a scam artist and all this other stuff. And we get along. I mean, most of the chimney companies around me have either called me for help on a job, come and bought materials out of our warehouse. I mean, even your guys, we chat once in a while, and it goes both ways. Why not? You know, you need a competition in your area that is comparable to the work you do.
Yeah, I love that. Talk about real quickly your transition. I talk about this a decent amount, the transition from being a technician to a business owner. And I've said it for years, we're really expert technicians and we're novice business owners. And
yeah,
you're a great example of making that transition and deciding to make that transition. But what's the transition? What made you do it? And then, I mean, and then what were the big chunks of that were the aha moments?
So obviously I started the company in 2005. It was 2012 before I finally gave up answering the phones.
Wow.
I would drive around in my truck with a schedule book and schedule appointments sometimes while driving.
Right.
I had an office lady in 2012 who wasn't answering my phones. She was doing all the clerical work and taking care of everything, but I was still answering the phones. And in my head, if a technician answered the phone, they would give the customer the best customer care right off the bat. I can answer the questions. They want to talk to me anyway. I finally gave up the phones. That was the biggest thing ever. But I've still, I don't enjoy running the business, right? I don't enjoy making the spreadsheets. I'm very lucky to have hired some people that are really good at their jobs. So that, I think it's, Hope always said the suck buckets, give those away to other people.
Yeah.
And it's not just what I don't like to do, it's what I'm not good at.
Yes.
I don't want to sit down and do the spreadsheets. I know I have to. I know I have to, at least if I'm not going to do it in a reasonable manner, do it good enough, delegate it to someone that enjoys it. There's people that like doing that. There's actually people that enjoy that stuff. Right?
Kill me. Spreadsheets, accounting, all that. Budget.
Well, I don't even like sweeping chimneys. I know Dave Hanna, that guy's gonna have an aneurysm because of me, because I don't identify as a chimney sweep. I've never worn a top hat. I've always called myself a technician from day one. And when I meet someone on the street, and what do? I build custom fireplaces. That's what I want to do. If that's all I ever did was build, $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 fireplaces, I would. But we have to get in there to the service to get those jobs, and I don't even enjoy doing that.
Right.
So,
yeah, you do.
I mean, there was a sticking point in the early 2014, 2015, where I would trust technicians to go out, sell the work, clean the chimneys, and put the liners in. But then I went back and inspected every single job before I told the customer they could use it. So the transition from technician to owner was long. I knew better. I knew better. I had listened to so many other stories. I just couldn't get over that. And it's been almost a year now. I hired a field operations manager, Sean, who's a little bit of a nutcase, but he's really good at doing everything I didn't want to do. We hired a warehouse manager. Anybody that has not been in my building in the last year would not believe it's the same building. The organization, the inventory is spot on now. Technicians don't accidentally forget that they took 20 feet instead of 50 feet of liner. Like, all that stuff is gone. There's so much less waste. And I always thought, I gotta pay a guy to sit in the warehouse all day. Oh my God, I don't know how I didn't do that sooner. I
saved you more than you ever spent on him.
Absolutely. And then, he's checking the stickers, make sure oil changes were done. I just hired my own full-time mechanic. That's amazing. I like working on cars to a point. I don't want to replace ball joints on all our damn Ford vans or the drive shafts on the new Ford vans. And, those Chevys use up idler arms left and right. I'm a cheapskate. Every single work van I've ever purchased, I've paid cash for.
Me too.
I don't want to ever have a bank hold anything over my head. Yeah. And I'm not afraid to drive a van with 100,000. I think the Ford I'm driving right now is 410,000 on it. I keep telling them I'll park it as soon as the engine or transmission dies. The body's going to fall off of it before anything, but it was wrapped. It was the first vehicle I did a full wrap on. So it looks good from 50 feet. So
I love that. I mean, we are very much, I agree with your business thing. I have something really, Ken Holscher wrote a note on here. Some of my notes come on my phone, some come on this. So I'm going to read it. And we love Kent. Kent says, "This guy saved me from a dark place. He's an amazing person." That's good. That's tough. That's a big heart. And thank you, Kent, for saying that.
I love you, man.
Yeah.
Other people in this industry have done that for me too. So it goes both ways. It is completely self-serving and selfish anytime I've helped someone because I've gotten it back. I really have.
Yeah, yeah, that's good stuff. Thank you, Ken. And then Jeremiah Mundy says Jasper gives the raw truth. I love it, and good stuff. So let's talk. And thank you for all you've done for this industry, and thank you for your years of service, and everybody that knows you has benefited from that, and that's what people really
Hey,
need.
you know what though? Same thing to you, man. I mean, really. You and I share some of those text messages back and forth, and at times we've been playing on other teams, but you
Sure.
did show us that glass ceilings were glass, right? In a lot of ways. And I'm really close to Lindemann. They're in my backyard. They may or may not send me work from time to time, but it was always, well, they're a supplier too. It was a different feeling. Even though they're still bigger than both of us, you were the one that wasn't a supplier that was growing leaps and bounds and just showing that it's possible, right? So, dude, you have also helped more people in this industry than I think you'll ever know because I've copied your stuff and I've shown others. So,
Well, thank you for that. And I think, again, we're also showing others to do this. And it's neat to see other generations or the next levels of guys doing that same stuff and trying to give back. And I think you embody that. And I've always followed that. And I think that's one of the things that makes our industry very different is that the guys in front are also the guys reaching back to pull up. And
yeah.
I think
We don't see that in our HVAC businesses at all, do we? When was the last time an HVAC guy helped you do squat?
not one phone call from them. Yeah, nothing.
Never. But yet, and you and I don't know if you and I had this conversation or with someone else, but we see sweeps coming into this industry right now that want to be completely trained before they make any mistakes. And they are growing so much faster than any of us ever did.
Amazing. Yeah.
There's companies 2 or 3, 4 years old that you would think they were here 20 years. It's amazing. It's beautiful.
I was talking to Jim Brewer about that today. I'm like, just seeing what they've got access to information, which we really didn't have. We had access to ass kickings, and they're going to get those too, but they're also learning faster and they're seeing further than we did. And I still feel like this chimney industry is just on the tip of what it can do.
It is absolutely the access to information. I remember back in the day when you wanted to learn something about a chimney, you had to wait till convention or you had to call somebody. Like that was the only way you'd learn. These guys are getting a jump start like no other by asking questions on public forums. And yeah, sometimes they get harassed. And I apologize, guys. Sometimes I have a really bad sense of humor and my jokes just aren't funny. I know I've cracked a couple in board meetings and I look around the room and nobody's laughing. I feel about that big. But it's amazing. But fair warning, when we get to Vegas, and it's going to happen a little bit here this week, people are going to get hugged. All right. Like Mark, I haven't hugged you since we were at the summit. Right.
Yeah.
But people are going to get hugged like crazy. So if you come within 10 feet of me, like guys I've never met, I've only known you from online, you're getting hugged. So you've been warned.
That's awesome, man. I love that. There was a couple other quotes here. Let's see. Ken Holscher said, "Love you." Chad Murray says it's sweet to have heroes in our real time, not in our parents and our grandparents. You two are awesome. Thank you, Chad.
Yeah, so, I'm eating with Chad. I already called one night in Vegas. Chad, you and I we're gonna find a corner and we're gonna laugh and we're gonna leave good buddies.
Yeah, Scott Scraper, this is funny. Looking forward to my hug.
Dude, you got one coming. I'm sorry, Scott. Scott was one of those guys. I make comments on some of these forums, and like I said, I have a horrible sense of humor. So if I have a duh answer or a smart ass whim to something, I apologize. But I'm very grateful the guys are asking the questions because, oh my God, could you imagine if you didn't ask and you cost someone their life or their property? So there's no dumb answer or no dumb question. I have plenty of dumb answers, but there's no dumb question, right? Ask away, guys.
Well, Scott's one of those guys that isn't afraid to ask, and he's got a big heart, and he also he's learning fast. And he's taking it at whatever speed he wants to, but he's and he also has a sense of humor on stuff. I've seen him throw some stuff across there and it didn't land and other stuff did, but he's not afraid to get out there. So Scott, we appreciate you too. So here's the deal. We're normally a 1 hour show. I still got a couple more questions. If you got time, I'd love to.
I got time.
Okay,
when the caffeine wears off, I'm going to be out, but for now you got me.
Oh, great. So thank you. So let me ask you, let's transition. Thank you for all your business and your volunteer. And now let's transition into race cars and what you want to do now in this stage of business. What's next for Jasper Drengler?
So I know at the CSA summit, I said I was going to double my business, and I got close, right? I got damn close. I more than doubled my payroll, my insurance, my materials. I just didn't double what I put in my pocket. That's about the
foundation. You're building it.
But yeah, it was definitely a growth year. So the next stage is the business. I've got some lofty goals again this year. Just because I didn't quite meet all of them doesn't mean I'm going to take my foot off the gas. It's fast forward, right? So Chimney Mechanics is going to continue to grow. We're going to work on our systems. We've got a 3-year plan and a 10-year plan for the business. But then the next step for me is this last fall, I actually started a race car rental company. So I've got a couple semis and we've got a fleet of BMWs that we rent out. So we'll load up 3-4 cars in the semi. We'll go to a racetrack and guys show up. They pay us a pound of money to drive our cars. At Sebring in December, one of them decided he wanted to crash it, totaled it out. He wrote us a check for it, and I went and bought more BMWs. I know I was down in Florida. That was just a surreal experience. I never hopped on a plane with a backpack with so much cash in it before. I have a business partner in that company, and he used to work at Ford. He was the Mustang brand manager. He was kind of high up there. He was one of our speakers at the Wisconsin Guild a couple weeks ago, and he wants this business to be his livelihood. He doesn't have to work, but he wants this race car business to be his livelihood. And so we're going to do it. That's part of our new building is race shop and build the BMWs, rent them out. I professionally raced for 2 years, which is a massive waste of money. It's probably about the same as trying to launch your own album.
Right.
Not the easiest thing to do. It costs about $500,000 to get your song played on the radio from start to finish now.
Yep.
I think that's the stat I heard.
Yep.
But so the new shop or the new building is going to be a race car shop. We're going to have a banquet hall in it. That community that the building's in doesn't have any place to get married in, the whole town. So we're building a banquet hall. I started a gym. I guess, Darren Beeble has fun with gyms, so I'm starting a gym. We'll have a gift shop. I bought an old antique fire truck. So Chuck Roydhouse will love this. He was always wanting to see the Seagrave factory, and unfortunately when the Milwaukee convention got canceled, he wasn't able to take the factory tour like he had planned. But I bought a Seagrave fire truck, and this thing is old and heavy iron, and it's just gorgeous body lines. So the name of my new building is Fire and Iron. It's going to have a few fireplaces in it. We're going to have this old Seagrave fire truck on display. My whole premise for this building is it's going to be drug, alcohol, and tobacco-free, a place where kids can hang out in the community. We're going to have tutors for after-school stuff. We hosted the Wisconsin Guild meeting there because we had too many people show up to fit in my other building. But we're going to have a race car show in a couple weeks, inviting cars from all over the country. We expect to have $10 million worth of race cars in the building for the show. God. It's going to be pretty sick. So I've got that. And then, of course, my daughter wants to run her own business. She wants to, do her own thing and have her own failures, her own successes. So I'm going to work on being her partner. You know how that goes, Mark. You're the partner.
Yeah, you're the dumb one.
Yeah. So I'm going to work on that with her, see where her dreams take her. My boat, I want to, rent that out. And then I'm almost finished racing and off. I've almost finished my quest to race in all 50 states. And there's 3 states I haven't been in and like 6 I haven't raced in. So we're going to do that. And then I'm going to keep conquering racetracks around the world. You know, when we were on my way to Chimneys this last time, it seems like a lifetime ago, I got to go play at the Nürburgring on the way. So that was fun.
I was going to ask you, tell me about that real quick. Did you rent a car? Like you had something lined up with a team or something over there?
Yeah. So there's a team in Germany that rents out their race cars to drive the Nürburgring. And by the way, I got 2 speeding tickets in the mail when I got home from that trip from 2 different rental cars within 45 minutes on the same stretch of highway.
Yeah,
got tickets mailed to me.
Yeah,
it was a good time. But I just want to keep playing on racetracks, and at the same time, I want to keep giving back to this industry. I owe this industry absolutely everything. The Lindemann Universities, the Warrior Horses.
Yeah.
Dude, that was a major day. Mm-hmm. That Warrior Horse Conference in Louisiana, when the hockey coach was up there.
When who was out there?
When the coach was up there.
Oh God,
on stage.
Oh, he was awesome.
He called his kid to ask him what was the most important thing of his life. Mark, I went back to my room in a hot, sweaty mess. I picked up my phone and I called my first wife. And I said, what do you think is the most important thing in my life? She goes, duh, your kid's idiot. Okay. That's good. Called up my second wife. I said, Tracy, I'm just curious, what do you think is the most important thing in my life? She says, well, for a while there, I would have said your business was. But right now, I'd say you're doing a good job at making your kids number one.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Now it's time to call the kids.
Right.
Thank God every single one said them. Dude, I was mush. I didn't go to dinner with anybody. I think I took a cold shower. You would not understand that story if you were not in that room at the Warrior Horse Conference. And, you know, everyone learns in different ways. You guys got to get out and go to these conferences, all of them, as many as you can, as many as you can afford. I have a confession to the chimney gods. I've never taken any online classes on any platform. It's just not me, right? I'm a hands-on guy. So that's how I learned. Now I know that most of our technicians that are coming up now, they have no problem learning online.
Sure.
But you can't learn everything off the computer screen. You can't learn everything out of a book. I think Rubber Ronnie's the most famous saying, "What you gonna teach me out of a book?" You gotta learn hands-on. I mean, Rubber Ronnie's got all the hands-on training, none of the book training. He's got to get on SureFire or whatever, and he needs to he needs to read a book. I think we've got some picture books for him if he needs it.
Yeah. Let me say something real quickly about that moment. For those of you who weren't there, there was a guy that was a coach. He's actually a motivational coach and a coach for hockey players. And
Muskie,
yeah.
Muskie, yeah.
I can't remember his first name, but and so they call him Muskie. He worked with the Predators, and at first he started off, I'm like, man, I don't think I'm going to be able to listen to this guy. He started off strong and very animated. And man, I don't know what it was, but you had to watch him. You could not watch him. And he wrapped us all up. And that phone call, he said, I'm going to show you something. And it changed a lot of people's lives. He called his kid, put on speaker on the microphone, and asked that question you just said. And his kid said, hey, Dad, why are you calling? He said, hey, I just want to know what's the most important part? Who's the most important person in my life or most important part of my life? He said, well, I am. And man, there wasn't a dry eye in that dang room, man. And that's interesting that you did that. And I know that, to me, that's something I'm working on, that I've been very, very business focused. And thank you for reminding me of that moment. That was a great moment.
There have been many, many magical moments at all kinds of conventions and industry get-togethers over the years. But that was the first time I think we were told not to work on our businesses, right? Like that was, and that's the other part of it. All these messages, all these trainings, all these coaches, they all have a time period, right? They all speak to you in the right moment.
Mm-hmm.
And I know there's been plenty of times where, do I really need to take off work to go to that convention? I'm going to miss so much money and revenue. But you always get something, right? And there's always a speaker that's going to speak to you in the moment with what you're dealing with. And it's going to be the perfect timing. And you're going to have that aha moment or not. Or 2 years down the road, you're like, oh my God, Chuck Hall totally told me about this once.
Yes.
And he's another guy that it's weird to admit it, but Chuck Hall is definitely little things he said over the last 8-9 years that have come back, and I've thought, wow, he was actually good for something.
Yeah.
Like I love it. It's hilarious, and everybody speaks to you at a different time in your life, and we don't go down that road at the same pace. Some of it's more mountainous, more valleys. But I promise you, no matter where you are in the industry, no matter where you want to be, no matter where you were, somebody else has already done it.
Yeah.
Somebody else has already killed that fish. Someone can talk you through it. I bet you between Mark and I, we've made probably just about every mistake there is to make in this business.
For sure.
And maybe even in life, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's so I forgot Chuck Roydhouse said, glad you're happy. Now just wait until you retire. It's bliss. And then
Chuck, you got to come see my fire truck. I'll let you take it for a ride.
He put nice and a little fire truck emoji on there. So,
he has a fire truck and everything. Or that and a crab.
Yeah, he hit a crab. Yeah. Kyle German says, "Oh my God, that's awesome." John Pilger says, "I want to see the fire truck." Of course, John does. Chief. And then Roydhouse says, Seagrave is the Cadillac of fire trucks. Pilger says, all depends who you ask. So Tommy Nelms, big fireman, and before he started talking in the Maca thing, John Caesar's like, oh God, how many times are you going to mention he's a fireman? So, and I asked the crew before he started, how do you know a guy's a fireman? And I said, because he tells you. And
yeah.
So Chad Murray says, gosh darn it, I'm crying. So let's wrap this up, man. You have such an amazing story, and I think you touch a lot of people's stories too, and that's why they can relate to you so well. Let's just leave it with there's a lot of people watching. What would you say? What would you say your best advice for somebody who wants to go from technician to, or even if they're working for somebody, like how do they move their life along like you did to have is it a goal, or are you kind of open-ended on what's going to happen? Are you just kind of like always watching? Like, how's it work?
Yeah, it's kind of been open-ended, and I'm guilty of looking at a glass ceiling and not thinking I could ever accomplish it, right? Like, I was content, I was complacent at stages that I should have been scared to death, right? Like, I was too dumb to know what I didn't know, so It was great. So if you're a technician working with a company, I got to tell you something. Between you and I, your boss doesn't make nearly as much as you think he does.
Yeah.
And I've got technicians making more than me. So if you're a really good technician and you've got benefits and your boss likes you and you got a retirement plan, I mean, the number of years that a technician is averages in this business is rather low. But you can definitely make a career off of it. You can definitely retire, and you can live without all the stress and the marital problems that all the rest of the business owners have, right? So that's for the technicians, and that's my advice.
That's in the last 10 years that's happened.
Absolutely. Yeah. If you are wanting to get into this industry and build a business and do what Mark has done, do what so many other great people in this industry have, my advice would be don't have any personal relationships. Work your ass off to get your business going as fast as possible. Get past that $2 million mark as fast as possible. Get past the 5-truck struggle as fast as possible, and make something for yourself before you want to settle down and actually have a family. And then do the John Caesar and go home to that girl at 2:00 in the afternoon, man. God, I love watching that guy and the time he has with that daughter. And, John's life and my life have a lot of parallels and a lot of common ground. And, he's got some older kids and he's got that youngest daughter. And I know that in those boys' hearts, they love their dad and they see that little girl getting all the attention. They're a little jealous, but it wasn't because that's what he wanted for his kids. It's because that's what he had to do. And John did a really good job of discovering the difference between having to do something and not having to do it, right? Like, the way that man has turned his business around so much faster than you or I ever did is incredible.
Yep.
So he's one of my heroes, and I've been doing it like twice as long as he has, and he's damn near as big as me already, right? So, at the post that went viral where guys are talking about what it's like to be a business owner, it's gonna personal friends aren't gonna be your friends. They're not gonna call when they need something. It's gonna tax every part of your life. You have to be willing to put in 80 hours a week. And then the biggest ticket is when you don't have to do the 80 hours a week to know it and have a life outside of work.
Yeah. Man, thank you so much. Thank you for doing this. And I tell you, just from the numbers I'm watching on this broadcast, we kept gaining numbers and everybody stayed the whole time. There's sometimes it fluctuates, but you're really hitting some great points with people and they were staying tuned in. So thank you.
And Mark, guys can reach out to me anytime. I mean, I answer phone calls daily with questions and it might seem juvenile, it might seem elementary, but ask away, dude. We've been there. Technical stuff.
How can they reach out to you? Is this through Facebook? You would put your number on here? What would
Facebook Messenger is like the easiest thing to do. I hate answering my phone, but I love text messaging. But my number is on my Facebook. Like, I don't care. But Facebook Messenger is probably the easiest way to get a hold of me. Feel free to follow around my crazy life and stories. I've tried to keep a lot of my super personal stuff off of Facebook because there's some crazy people out there, and I had my ID stolen. I don't know who in the hell would want to be me, but someone tried to steal my ID. But I'm an open book. I'm always available. And it's a two-way street. I'll always learn something off of you asking me a question.
Yeah, right. Well, because you're curious, right? You're always curious. You're always interested in them too, and that's how this works. So, man, thank you so much. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow and down at HPBA.
65 is horrible, dude. Leave early.
Okay,
it's bad.
Steve Scally said, "Yes, he does. He answers. One of the most caring persons I know." So, and Steve is one of those guys too. So thank you so much, Jasper. And I want you to have a good night, and I look forward to seeing you soon.
No problem, buddy. Thank you.
See you, buddy. Man, wasn't that awesome? Awesome stuff. And thank you. It looks like maybe this is Jeremy says, great stuff, Jasper. And Joe says, great guest. And I got a couple more. Matt Watkins says, thank you both so much. Man, that's what it's about right there, man. I think he laid it out pretty cleanly and pretty raw and real. And I think we all should do that. I think we all learn from that. And it's not a big contest about who does this or that. We're all in our own race, and to use a racing term. And Jasper's in his race, and he told you how his race worked. And it doesn't matter if he's putting himself up against somebody else. He's in his own race. And you are in your own race, and I'm in my own race, and it doesn't matter what we do. If we can help each other win whatever race that is, success is really what you say it is. It's not what anybody else says it is. And so when you determine what success is and what it looks like, that's when you win. And Jasper did a great job of explaining what success meant to him, and very inspirational. So I hope you guys liked it. Look forward to seeing you guys next week. Talk to you later.